Good morning. We call this 1 million cups, but this morning it was maybe 35 cups. If you noticed, we ran out. But we have some over here now. So, and of course, Sterling's brother Steve offered to share his cup as a friendly, because we're such a friendly group back here. How many of you are here for the first time? Welcome. How many of you are business owners? Very nice. And entrepreneurs, obviously. This is 1 Million Cups. It is put on by the Kauffman Foundation. It is a platform for entrepreneurs, business people, anyone with a new idea. And what the idea behind it is to give startups and people who've been in business under 5 years the platform to stand in front of you, talk about their business, and get some feedback from the audience. And it's become an enormous success over the United States. There's over 100 different 1 Million Cup sites. We are the third largest, and we have brought 1 Million Cups, I think, has brought quite a bit of startup business into Springfield, so we're really excited. Let's see. I want to say thank you to Sterling back there, because his name's not on the board, but he is one of the founders of the 1 Million Cup organizers, and he has done a fabulous job and has actually paved the way for the rest of us to have this fantastic group of people, so we really appreciate him. We also want to thank Brick and Mortar for the coffee. They do a terrific job. The E-Factory for all of the space that they let us use, and for all of you who come here and every week and help us make this a success. So, in saying that, this morning we have two good presenters. Lean Business Intelligence is here. This is a refill of sorts. He presented before with a prior business, but this has evolved into his new business. And so I'm going to bring up, and I hope I say this right, Marty Preuss.
Sound working? Okay, thank you. So my name is Marty Preuss. A little bit about my background. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been in manufacturing my whole career. I've been in operations, supply chain, quality. My passion is really performance improvement though. And that led me to start a business that I presented here 2 years ago. It was called High Impact Metrics. Shortly after I presented that business, I got a job offer from the folks that didn't want me to be a consultant, so I said, okay, I'll take it. It sounds like you've got a lot of issues. I'll come in and fix them with high impact metrics and figure out what I'm going to do from there. It turned out their problems were a lot deeper than I ever imagined. The way they scheduled this business was completely dysfunctional, so every department was essentially a silo, and they really didn't communicate with each other. They really communicated with the warehouse and just made thousands of parts for a warehouse, and then assembly down here at the bottom struggled to ever get the right parts coming out of the warehouse to actually build something. So I said, we're going to have to fix this. Metrics alone aren't going to solve this problem. They said we need a new MRP, our business software system, to solve this problem. I said, no, we don't. We have Microsoft Excel and we have SharePoint, so we're going to do it. So every department had their own schedule in Excel that we connected up and linked to a master jobs list. That master job list pulled data from all these spreadsheets and told us if a particular job, I forgot to say that a job is going to, every department is going to only move complete sets of parts from one department to the other in a job format, in what we will call a job. So we could keep the status of jobs on the master jobs list visible to all of us, while every department only dealt with their own schedule by automatically linking a lot of that. So the end result was material really moved directly now from one department to the next and out the door. The warehouse shrunk considerably. Profits doubled from 1 year to the next. Working capital went down by millions. Quality improved. Scrap went down by 50%, and we had no need for a new business software system to solve that problem. So I got finished with that. Like I said, my passion is problem solving. I really don't enjoy routine stuff. So it was time for me to expand on my high impact metrics concept, and I came up with the name Lean Business Intelligence. It's a little broader approach now. I really just launched with a press release 2 weeks ago. My biggest challenge as an engineer is how do I talk about Lean BI, as I call it. and I needed help. So shortly after, I took a desk here at Originate to kick this business off. And shortly after I came here in early November, Landon McCarter from Jump Six Marketing presented, and I've been working with Landon ever since, and he's helped me figure out how to tell my Lean BI story. He helped me with a structure to my website that really describes a lot of the aspects of Lean BI. There's a lot to it, what industries it impacts. He gave me a great format for case studies, so he's really helped me out a lot. Thank you, Landon. And 1MC helped make that connection, so thank you, 1MC. So those of you that don't know what Lean Six Sigma might be, it's a manufacturing performance improvement approach. It's spreading beyond manufacturing. It's getting into healthcare and many other industries. There are a lot of people with Lean Six Sigma in their profiles on LinkedIn, as you see here, and there's even twice that many out there on LinkedIn with BI in their profile. So Lean BI kind of works in the gap between these two. It takes the best from both approaches to drive performance improvement. In manufacturing, underperformance can take a lot of forms. Here's some forms it typically takes. All of these can get resolved with focus and accountability, and I create that focus and accountability with lean thinking and business intelligence. Lean thinking is traditionally thought of, and this came out of the Toyota production method, is where lean came from. It's thought of as developing a deep process understanding and an understanding of the people's perspective that are involved in a process. Now, Lean BI adds another dimension. We want to understand the data in a process, not just the data we're using today, but the data that's going to be required to really drive accountability. The other side of that coin now is the business intelligence side. We take a guerrilla approach. Microsoft Excel does everything I've ever needed done with operational data sets. So that's what I use. Everybody's got the tool. SharePoint is the perfect tool that integrates with Excel and puts that information out in front of an entire team. So essentially what Lean BI does, it makes the largest opportunities in a process obvious. It puts it out in front of the entire team, which creates almost an inherent accountability. And it drives performance results, and it's a sustainable loop once you set the process up. So that's an overview of how it works. Here's a little more nitty-gritty details. Let's say I have an inventory process that's not performing well. No matter what process it might be, I'm going to find out what categories there are in that major area. So in this case, there might be finished goods, purchased material, raw material, and excess inventory. The next step, and this is one of the most critical, is finding a meaningful benchmark for each one of the categories. I'm calling it a plan level here, but it's not just a random goal. There's data behind these numbers, and I have techniques for creating those benchmarks that create accountability. The next thing we do is compare it to our actual performance. And we want to get focus here. So we could see with this, we got a gap between actual and plan in the purchased area. So we're going to ask the folks that own the purchased material process to post some actions on our SharePoint site for everybody to see. Now we have really created, we've kind of got focus here and we've got accountability here. Ultimately, this drives significant improvement. Here's an inventory performance of the first business I really used Lean BI in. They were running about 20 days of inventory after I implemented it. If I'd have just used the inventory performance as a benchmark, they'd have been up here at about 40 days. Now this was a large business, nationwide business. That was worth $20 million in working capital, that gap. That's why I put a lot of emphasis on meaningful benchmarks. So how do I implement Lean BI? I have 3 steps. Step 1, and I'd like you to remember this for a minute, I'm going to come back to it, is a 1-hour overview, demonstration, and discussion with a client of specific issues they may have, no cost. Step 2, that's a detailed assessment with a proposal creation. I have to go in, I'm on site for a day or two to get a high level understanding of their process. From that, I'll develop an implementation proposal with cost and their expected results. And obviously, there will be a significant ROI expected. If the client accepts, there is a nominal cost for this due to the amount of time I have involved. I want to make sure the client's serious. I'm not going to get rich off of that, though. So in step 3, when the proposal is accepted, I go in and I take a leadership role and implement the Lean BI system. It's a fixed cost, and I stay involved until the results are attained. So the last third of my costs aren't paid to me until my client gets the results that I say they're going to be able to attain. And it's turnkey then. When I leave, they continue to use the system. So my last slide, business development. I'm really looking at $25 million manufacturers and above. You get much smaller than that, unless it's a complicated business, you probably really don't need these tools. It does work in other industries, but I'm not currently marketing there. So if I'm really kind of looking for help with introductions and leads for that step 1 overview I just described. I want to do that free 1-hour overview for anybody that might be interested in looking at opportunities to improve the results from their business. So if any of you can help me with those kind of introductions or leads, I would sure appreciate it. There's my contact information, and that's Lean Business Intelligence. Thank you.
Marty, thank you so much for sharing this morning. You had mentioned it on the previous slide. Your issue is not necessarily the expertise once you're in front of the client, and I know you were asking for some introductions, but when you do something like you do with a $25 million manufacturer, you probably don't call the front desk and say, I'd like to talk to the person about hiring a consultant. How do you open those doors on a regular basis, other than an invitation from somebody that...
Well, obviously that's my big challenge now. Lannon's going to help me out, but really I think it's networking, it's offering free webinars that help get the introduction, that demonstrate my competence, that really provide a benefit to potential clients that they can recognize and then hopefully expand on from there. So those are some approaches I'm working on right now to get that to happen. Thank you.
I think it was like your 5th slide, and you had like the different segments of, where, like on your 5th slide, there was like a couple of segments of business that, you'd be able to find problems and help customers with.
Oh, yes, yes.
Your perfect customer out of those categories, I don't know if you can go back to that, but like where,
like excess inventory,
customer,
and
like
all.
how many of those problem areas would you think need to line up for you to get the impact of working with Lean BI?
Well, I think you mean this, right? I think that depends on the size of the organization, really. I mean, you could have a large business that has a major issue in inventory, that just solving that issue alone could pay for itself, could pay multiples of my cost. So, there's a couple different, there's situations I can encounter. One is like that first example where the business is kind of dysfunctional and really needs an overhaul. Solving that problem impacted almost every one of these categories. Or you can have like the business I talked about that had the industry's carrying 40 days of inventory, and I got this one down to 20 days inventory. They had a pretty functional process in place, but it had fallen apart. There was no discipline anymore. So I just my Lean BI went in and shored that up and really took it to another level. So, I don't know, to answer that, Matt, it kind of depends.
So, many times organizations have these kind of problems, but they don't know it.
Correct.
So how do you make this explicit to them so they see it?
Well, yeah, so that industry, we're running at 40 days of inventory, and they really have the potential to operate at 20, but no one realizes it. I'm working on cracking that problem right now, okay? I think some webinars, though, may be an inroad that really try to highlight where they could be.
I think that if you can develop some case studies and let people see those case studies, that may be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Marty, what about your pricing structure? Your decision to price it a third, a third, a third,
Yeah.
is that normal in your industry? Is that unique to you? How did you come up with that?
I came up with that because I want my clients to know that I'm in it with them. I'm not going to leave them out there hanging. You know, I think some have had bad experiences with consultants where they kind of come in and do something, give some presentations and leave, and then there's no follow through. But what I want my clients to recognize is that I'll be there with them. You know, if it's a weekly review of their results with the team, whatever it may be, I'll be there until they get the results they need. That could be via WebEx or, you know, whatever, but I will stay involved and make suggestions until they get there.
Oh, quick question. Do you ever get any pushback regarding your processes for companies that kind of like having excess inventory, or they don't consider it excess because they like having the cushion, unforeseen circumstances come along and they're good to go and they're not going to get caught empty?
Yeah, but really in those situations, you're better off to establish a plan for the excess that I'll call it excess, but it's not an excess if you plan to carry it to cover emergencies. That's safety stock. Anything else, it's like that example I showed with the big warehouse that shrunk small. When you're just carrying a bunch of inventory, you'll find out you never have what you really need. So you really have to be intentional about it. That doesn't mean I'll convince everybody in the world that's the way they should operate, but that's the best way to operate.
So you explained clearly that the very center of your bullseye is a $25 million manufacturing company a year
And above.
and
Yep.
above. Is there a secondary market that you can still help on a smaller scale that is below 25 million? Or where's sort of the range? Yes, 25 and up is the center of the bullseye, but are there secondary markets that you can help?
You know, I mean, if a business really is struggling, the size may not matter, and I mean operationally struggling, then I can help them out. But I kind of just throw 25 million out there as the level at which it's where you've got professional managers in place, and maybe people don't have their fingers on the whole operation and really understand what's going on in a lot of cases. That's what you find in larger organizations. So there's no real strict cutoff, but I just put that out there because usually that's where complexity starts building in, and they can use help in a lot of cases. So if anybody's really struggling operationally, I can help them with Lean BI.
So I noticed that you use Excel and SharePoint as your tooling. Is there any kind of after the fact, so after results are achieved and they keep using this, any kind of maintenance contract or any kind of support? If they use the tools in a bad way or they break the tools, do you have something in place to come in and fix it and get it back to how it was when you left?
Oh, absolutely. I can work out retainer agreements to do that kind of thing, absolutely. But really with the system I'll put in place, I talked about meaningful benchmarks. As an operation gets better, I'll give them the tools to keep ratcheting down their benchmarks where they should be performing. That's really what continuous improvement is all about. So they'll actually, depending on the process, but they'll be able to move their plan levels to keep accountability and keep improvement driving forward with the tools I'll leave them. So.
Have you considered getting a testimonial from the customers you've already helped?
I don't have that, but that's definitely something I should consider. Thank you. I've got about 4 case studies out there on my website right now that are available, but I probably could use some testimonials.
Marty, I'm curious, how do you quantify the results and actually prove to them their return on investment?
Well, we're going to establish metrics that are really going to tell us how we're performing. In that little inventory example, we'll keep tracking where we're at when we start, and then where we're at when we get, like if I said, well, you've got 60 days of inventory on hand and I think you can be operating at 30, that will be quantifiable. It'll be all data driven. Everything I do is data driven. So it will be hard numbers. and days of inventory convert to dollars really, but it's a unit of measure though that's, when you're in the process, days works better than dollars. Let's put it that way.
Hey, Marty. Very good. Aren't we also then, as NK said, you know, in the realm of personalities, and as something, as a perfectly oiled system is operating perfectly, you know, from the word go, as we all know it always does. But then we have, you know, accounting personalities, purchasing personalities, management personalities, and oftentimes those are what cause the system to get out of whack. So I suppose that you're on high guard for coordinating the personalities and the resistance and reducing resistance between those.
Yeah, so yeah, there are a lot of issues with that, with personalities and people wanting to do it one way or the other. But ultimately, I let data do all my talking. I mean, that's how I took $20 million worth of inventory out of a business that had 20 to 25 facilities around the country, right? I couldn't be there to beat on anybody to say, you know, you got to do this or do that. I let data do the talking, and that drives your results. So that's how you overcome that. Go to the data. So
I have a question for you regarding your partnership with Landon or an outside, you know, marketing assistance. As an entrepreneur, I find myself struggling with, I know I need help with marketing. At what point in the stage, you know, did it make sense for you to jump in and partner with somebody to help you with marketing, and to what degree are they helping you? And then kind of how are you funding that this early in the stage?
Well, off my own savings, but to answer that part, but I knew I had to figure, I knew I didn't know how to tell my own story. All right, so when I came out, I knew I was going to have to get help. I mean, I'm not a marketing guy. I'm an engineer. So I just knew that I was considering some workshops around the country, story brand workshops, different avenues to figure out how am I going to tell this story. And then Landon appeared, and I just connected with him, and that's been working out great. So I knew I'm not a marketing guy. I was going to have to go into this with help. So I just went into it knowing that.
Amen. All right, guys. So we appreciate you coming back and giving us an update on where you're at now. And we always end with asking you, what can we do as a community to help you?
Well, I have a pretty simple objective here, and that is to change the world of business performance improvement. But I got to do that one step at a time. So anybody that knows of any business that could use a potential improvement in their operations, please let me know, and I would be glad to give them that free 1-hour overview and introduction. That would be the best thing anybody could do for me here. So, thank you very much. And thanks to Chris back there doing the videotaping too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marty. Great presentation. I want to call out our new social media specialist. Nathan, would you stand for us? Nathan is a social media guru, and we're so glad to have him on board. Thank you, Nathan. And so great presentation this morning. And we're going to have Deepwater Software with Charity McGill. But before they do, I want to mention a few announcements. Agile User Group meeting is going to be at the eFactory. NK, you can ask him for details. And then also here at the eFactory, we have Money Smart for small business, also analyzing, managing your cash flow, QuickBooks for your business, and predicting your company's cash needs. So please take a look at these and participate. So let's welcome Deepwater Software and their team.
Hello, my name is Charity McGill, and I'm here introducing Deepwater Software. We're very excited to be here today. I've really enjoyed being at Million Cups. We build virtual employees for convenience store owners and operators. And to talk a little bit about how we got to here. The team that you're seeing up here started at a company that was founded in 2001 in Bolivar, Missouri. It was a software startup for insurance. I've actually been in the insurance industry for about 20 years before I decided to do this. As part of that startup, it was acquired in 2011 by a Fortune 500 company, and all of us started looking for an opportunity to do it again. But for me, the most important part was doing something that would impact the community where I live. I don't know if you know this, but about 40 miles north of here in Dade County, Missouri, the average family income is about $28,000 a year. So we really were looking for opportunities to grow and build that community. And as it worked out, the team that I'm working with is really big on supporting people who are impacting communities in need. And so we centered our office in Greenfield, Missouri as part of a much larger project to build up that area. So we're in this bay in a historic center that's getting remodeled as an opera house. And that's all well and good, but without a good problem to solve, there's no point in having a company. And the problem comes in its form of what I also do for a living. So I have 4 children, and my spouse and I purchased a convenience store about 5 years ago. 3 years into our purchase, we realized we knew nothing about owning a convenience store. Yeah, as most businesses find out 3 years in. And so we hired a consultant to come in and talk with us operationally about what we could do. And I started talking with that consultant about my frustration. I was spending about 8 to 10 hours of work in book work. I really couldn't afford to do that. I had a full-time job, plenty to do, and lots of family and lots of church activities. And he handed me a pamphlet, said, "Oh, here's a back office. It's one of the best ones in the market. It'll help you out." And I opened it up and I said, "Hello to Windows 95 again." And I started searching the industry looking for a modern technology, and it turns out they're far more expensive than what we could afford. And they were old and just really not built for the retail business that we were in. And so this began our journey. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the challenges we had. I hope that they're helpful for you. In the end, I'm going to have another challenge that we're hoping you can help us out with. The first one was funding. I don't know if you've tried to fund a software company, but if anybody tells you differently, you need 3 years. It takes 3 years for software to come to fruition. So we really did need some good investment. We got an angel investor, and in doing so, I intended to go ahead and create a business plan and propose to some investors for the rest of our investment funding. But along the way, to do my business plan, I took some of the classes here to build that business plan, and I met Isabel. And Isabel and I began to talk about whether or not we could get a loan from a bank. I don't know if you know this, but banks don't typically loan to software companies because they have nothing to sell but employees after the software company folds. So it's not usually something that they do. But we worked with a local regional bank, Liberty Bank in Greenfield, that was in the process of being acquired by Simmons Bank. And they were able to fund us. And so that was a really good experience for us, and we finished out what we needed in order to meet our first thing. So we finished our prototype, and we were very excited. I come from a product management background, and as you know, and if you've been working on some of these agile classes, you'll know it's really not important what we think, it's more important what our customers think. So we took it to our customers, and our customers said, "Ew, I don't want a back office." What? So we did it again, and we started to interview. And we interviewed 10 local convenience stores. We went to 2 conferences. We talked with everybody that would talk with us. And it turns out that the issue is nobody was solving the actual problem. And the problem is that vendors drop off their goods at any point during the day. The owner is not necessarily there. The vendor sets the price for what gets delivered and typically drops off the same things. The issue is the prices don't always stay the same. And so the owner afterward has to check 350 items a week, comparing them to their old receipts and their new receipts to see if their prices have changed. If you do the math on this, 60 seconds an item, it's 5 to 6 hours a week. Some of our convenience stores are spending 8 hours a week checking these receipts. It's ridiculous. And so what they end up deciding is that they're good business owners. They know they should do this, but they don't have the time. And so they're choosing every single week. I'm either going to spend the time or I'm going to lose the money. I'm going to lose the time, I'm going to lose the money. And they're deciding over and over and over again. And this problem is huge. There are over 150,000 convenience stores. That's 35% of the retail market, and there are 30,000 more convenience stores than there are supermarkets, supercenters, drug stores, and dollar stores combined. All right, and how many of those are not chains, you might be surprised at. There are 63% of those are single store owners in the same position that my spouse and I are in. That is massive. That's 90,000 stores working Saturdays and evenings and weekends trying to keep up with their receipts. And so we decided to build them a virtual employee. So meet Connie. Connie is a virtual employee. You take a picture of your receipt, you send it to Connie, and Connie checks the inventory. She keys everything in, and she just alerts the owners whenever they need to know things. In this case, she tells them when their costs have gone up or down. We also found out from our accountants that it would be super handy if they didn't have to hunt down the 95 receipts a month that their C-store owners provide, and so we give the accountants a login to go ahead and look at it. Connie takes tips, accountants. All right, she's $149 a month. Is she really worth it? Yes, she is. Our owners tell us that they believe that they would lose $185 to $200 a week if they didn't check their receipts. That's a major, major loss. So the owners also have the ability to log in and look at some vendor reports, including some trends in their cost history and what goes up and down. So here's our third challenge, and this is where we're at today. Our biggest challenge that we need help with is reaching the 90,000 disparate owners all over the United States. We need about 950 as our break-even number. We've closed 5 so far in a day, and we are reaching out to a couple of shows to do some of that work. But that's our biggest issue, and so we need your help with that. The second thing we need is we have some more development that we would like to do that we just simply can't do and also support our customers at the same time. So we are looking for investors, if we can find some investors that can help us with that. That revenue increase for us would be about 60% off the customers that we acquire. The next thing that we want to do is an ecosystem. So really what we're trying to do is build a technology platform underneath all of these 90,000 stores that enables them to take goods and services from all over the market in a much more efficient way. And so if you know somebody that is related to the data services industry or related to the resale of data, we'd like to talk to them as well. So who's doing this? And this is the important part. I work for these guys. These guys are the important people. And so we have Jim Roller here with us today, and we have Joel Patton. Jim does our operations. Joel and Nathan and John are our engineering team. They built everything in-house, and they are stellar. So if you have questions about technology, they'll answer those. The other person we have here today is Robin. Robin has a unique position that is new to the industry and new to a lot of different customers called a Chief Customer Officer. We're very, very focused on acquiring and retaining our customers, and Robin is going to do that for us. All right, so how can you help? Here are our important dates. Here's the Facebook page, the website address, our Twitter, and our LinkedIn. What we would really like for you to do is to go to your own Facebook page, share about us, and tag a C-store owner. We really need to find all of them. Introduce Connie to them. They might thank you later. We would also appreciate it if you know C-store owners that we could talk to hear more about their problems. That's also something we're interested in.
All right, guys, so this is when we open it up to the audience. If you have any questions, any input, any feedback, raise your hand, and you'll see the organizers walking around with a mic. We'll give you a mic.
You could just call us up when you need us.
I could.
I want to start with this
But I'm
little
not going
twofold question, Charity. How in the world is C-Store out of everything you could have bought back in the day? And then I want to follow up with another question.
Well, we live in a little town of about 250 people. My husband was a woodworker about the time the economy collapsed and decided to go full-time to school to become an automotive mechanic and purchase a store in our town, which we were really desperate to have anything to get goods and services from. So that's how we got into that.
Well, it's interesting because the opportunity rose out of that.
Yeah,
So really,
it did.
Kudos to you and your team. I love that you labeled people founders and then actually important people.
Yeah.
That's great. We all have those in what we do. How do you balance mom, wife, C-store owner, software developer? How do you balance all that?
Well, there's marker on the table in our conference room. I do have, with the 4 children, they're 13 all the way to 4. I work with employees who are very, 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 very forgiving in what it is that I have to do with our family life, but also we support each other in our families and what it is that they have to do. So one of our employees recently had a baby midway through the release, and he took about 8 weeks? 6 weeks of leave to spend with his child so that he could support his wife in that.
So you'd mentioned this is developed for C-store owners that own a single store, or 2 or 3.
The single store market's really between 1 and 10 convenience stores. My suspicion when we go out to talk with those with 10 stores is that they probably have someone on staff who does a lot of this data entry and rekeying. It's really probably 2 to 3 stores that this problem exists in.
Charity, earlier in your presentation, you mentioned that banks just don't give software companies loans, but you got one. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how you did that feat of magic?
That's a God thing. Well, we worked pretty hard building that proposal, like I said, with Isabel. We put our houses in as collateral is what we ended up doing, which most people do when they're starting a business. But I think more importantly, the bank was local, it was regional to Greenfield, and just as passionate about seeing something happen in that community and to build up more jobs in the area. Yes, Dean.
Can you speak about the people behind the scenes that are actually doing the data entry? You know, what are their backgrounds? Where do they come from? How did you find them?
Go ahead.
90% sure that's broken at this point.
Testing. Can you hear me?
No.
No. All right.
Yeah.
You're right. What we have done is we partnered with a company in Nepal. It's called Cloud Factory, and one of the reasons we partnered with them is as we began doing the research, trying to find how we could get this done and done with high quality and also done efficiently. They had about the same ethos as our company, and so they have a whole network of young people who are really attending the university and have most of them are pretty tech savvy, and they have some pretty complicated business processes in place. And so we've been going through about a 4-month period now where we've been onboarding with them and then with us on how this will work and the processes, and we're at the very end of that, which allows us, you know, our launch is going to happen next week, and we feel like we're in good shape for that. So that's how we've done the data entry. We'll also in the future do some things with EDI, and that's one of the things that we're going to do really immediately with those vendors that we can receive the EDI on behalf of our customers in. We won't need to send that on to Cloud Factory to do that data entry.
Electronic data entry.
Yeah.
Okay, good business model. So I have 2 questions about it. What kind of collaboration tool you use with the people who are working remotely with you? That's number 1. Number 2 is tell me a little bit about your financial journey. Like you took some investment from the bank. Are you able to give it back to them yet, or when? And those kind of things. When you will become really profitable?
Well, like any business, we'll answer the first question. We work with Cloud Factory using Join Me, which is a web software that's out and available. It's free.
You also use Basecamp, which is kind of a collaboration project management system.
As far as the finances, like every great business person, we have a 3-year plan. The loan back to the bank likely could be repaid in our 3rd year for what we need from our customers. Once we hit a break even, we'll be probably around 70% profit margin off of everything if we're able to accomplish what it is we're trying to do. So ideally, we'll pay the bank back within their 10-year requirement. If not, we can all return back to our other jobs, which I should probably comment. These guys up here all took probably between 75 to 60% cut in pay to do this adventure with us.
So this is all cloud-based, and as a C-store, what do they have to purchase to get involved? Do they have to have a server? Do they have to have some smart devices? How's that set up?
You can't hand me that.
No.
Yes, you're correct. It is all cloud-based as far as the owner is concerned. They actually need nothing from a hardware standpoint other than a browser. So as long as, officially supported, it would technically be Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, so any browser. We have not completed our testing on all the mobile applications, but everyone we've tried so far has been working fine. So even down to the 2% of us, 1% of us that own Windows phones, it works on that. Really, basically, what they have already is going to work just fine for them. We will communicate with them through the application itself, which is a web application, or via email as well. So they'll get their alerts in email as well.
Charity, you mentioned you started this because of your C-store. Have you seen some success using this in your C-store? Therefore, you have a testimonial and a case study now to go forward?
Well, we just went live. We're just going live, so I don't have a testimonial from our C-store. I do, though, that my spouse is really, really excited to never have to touch his receipts again.
Charity, you were correct to point out that banks don't like to loan to software, but they do like to loan for convenience stores.
Yeah.
And I think if you went back to your bank, they may be an entree to some convenience store owners and some convenience store chain owners, because I know the Liberty Bank, now Simmons Bank, some of the key investors there, I mean, I don't want to give away names, but his initials are Rapid Robert. But there might be an entree there right back where you started.
We would love to work with resellers. If it were up to us, we would ask that we would talk to the banks and accountants and the people who actually have to deal with the C-store owners and understand the headache that they're going through for them to resell it. So yeah, we would be open to talking to all kinds of people.
Thank you. Charity, excellent presentation. What's your competitive landscape look like? Is there anyone out there that you're concerned with, or what's that look like?
There's one very endearing company out there. Their name is Red River, and we feel like they've done a good job. Most of the people connect us with them. I will say that while we were interviewing that particular company, a customer did pull us aside and tell us how much they hated them, and I don't know who they are. So that was not a good sign. The second company we would talk to would be Petrosoft. It's a Russian C-store owner who started a technology company. The technology is built on a more, it's not Windows, we'll put it this way. it's a little more fluid than that. We do have some inside information for that particular company we learned as we went along that's going to leave us in a better position in the long run.
Can I speak to that as well? Yeah. I don't know if I get one of the things that we think gives us a competitive advantage over any of our competitors in the market is very few are actually doing the receipt processing. Petrosoft would be the example, but with Petrosoft you actually have to purchase a very expensive monthly license for the whole back office software system, which we're finding that most C-store owners aren't using anyway. And then on top of that, they're paying another $160 a month for the receipt processing. So we feel like we're going out with something of value that our customers are going to want. And eventually then, as we continue to build our software assets, we'll have things like Pricebook and some other things will be integrated with their point of sale, but trying to understand what is it that they want and use and not develop things that they're not going to want or use.
I've got a couple questions. First is, you guys seem really adamant about having good customer service and enjoyable workplace. Can you talk a little bit about what your motivation is behind that? And then the second one would be, why Deepwater Software? Why that name?
Okay, I'll let Charity. Whoops.
You're good.
You're good. Okay. Yeah, so Charity said something earlier today. She said, it doesn't matter what we think, it's what the customer thinks. And that's so true in any business and anything that any of you do here. And so because we have a group that feel that way, we go out and we're really listening. So the original thing that we went to solve isn't what we ended up doing because we listened. So we're going to do that for the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And there's lots of vision now about things we could do. Do we take this to other industries? Do we stay in this industry and go to do this thing or that thing? Because customers are now talking with us. So to answer your question, we listen and then take that knowledge and share it. So about a fun workplace, that was your next question. You have to have a passion. You have to have a passion in life. And somebody asked early on about the balance that Charity herself had. And I think that's what we have found, is we have found a group of people who are all dedicated to giving back, to giving service, to giving to their communities, to meeting the needs, to listening to people. And part of that balance and part of what keeps each of us going is that we do have family and other things that come ahead of our business. So if we give this much, what you've seen here, to Deepwater Software, know that behind the scenes, all those more important things are what are driving us to be a good business partner as well.
Okay, the name, do you want to? Okay.
No, I was just going to say so. Sorry. Yeah, I'll let her talk to the name. Just fun things. So we have this really neat old building that you saw. Anybody who likes antiques or, you can see that. We also have a play area set up for the kids that sometimes have to come to work or get to come to work with parents. We're going to when we become profitable. We're moving in a ping pong table because developers sometimes, the way their brains work, they need that release, and that helps them function better. It helps them function better. We're putting it, instead of nice carpeting, we have these beautifully redone hardwood floors, but we want a putting green. So, with each of us having our own unique little holes. Okay, enough. Tell them about the story.
Okay, I have this. The name is it's a play on words. So if you've been a C-store owner, you're kind of in deep water a lot of the times. So we're the software that pulls out the life preserver. But you should probably also know that it also comes from Isaiah 58, 11, and 12, where you will be like springs of water in a place that's run dry. And really where we're at is a place that's run dry. And so we really want to be that deep well of water that helps water that area there.
This isn't so much a question as it is just maybe something that can maybe help you guys. We have a couple clients in California that are software, and a lot of the way that they grow their client base is to host webinars, and then how they get those C-store owners. A lot of people don't know about Facebook, that they buy all the same consumer data that all the direct mail companies do and all that. So you're not just relying on someone to put in their Facebook profile that they're a C-store owner to reach them. You can reach them at usually about $10 cost per thousand. So it's really not that difficult as long as you can set up a funnel that you can reach the C-store owners. I would recommend starting on LinkedIn and Facebook. LinkedIn has a paid platform too. They're about $35 a thousand. So you can target, I would be willing to bet there's a percentage of those on LinkedIn and Facebook, and then draw them to a webinar with a demo and then a personalized demo. And I would be willing to bet you can convert a higher percentage of those, and we see it happening with software companies already. So it's not like a guess on if it'll work. You just got to sort of work on your approach and pitch. But that will work for you guys, and it's not that expensive to just dabble in some webinars because it's $10 a thousand to reach these guys. Yeah. So just as an idea, I would be thinking about that.
I appreciate that because we actually don't know the metrics. We're kind of counting on it being about like that. So that's good to know.
I have a question for you guys over here. You're an anomaly as a software company, number one, because you're older than 19 and 20 years old.
Hey!
Is this a revelation for you all right now? And then also, you're really not an urban center, Greenfield, Missouri. So it takes a lot of purpose to go to Greenfield, Missouri. Does there come a point, let's fast forward, you're successful, do you have to move at least to a Springfield, or do you have to move to, what does that look like?
So quite frankly, it looks like, however, the business needs to be successful. Because the finance, the money that's coming in, the cash that's coming in is still going to benefit the community that we're in. Most of our employees actually work remotely, and we're big on that as well. So they come in a couple of times a week. They frequent the local restaurants. More importantly, the office there has been just kind of a beacon of hope. It's really created a stir and an excitement in the community that lets people say, hey, I can still open a business up here and it's worthwhile my time.
Jerry, you might mention Jack as being
Yeah, Jack Pugh is a great person to talk about. Jack is the one who is restoring the business, restoring the Opera House there. Jack was in Springfield and restored a lot of the commercial houses, Walnut Street, that you see down there, and moved to Greenfield. He had a house there. We ran into Jack by accident on Faith, and really wanted to be in the Opera House, and he was restoring that. He needed somebody to be a tenant, so it worked out really well for us. Jack is an old Navy admiral. He's a really interesting guy to get to know, but he's very passionate in working with the Dade County Betterment Association and getting a lot of different things going on in the community.
Very good. It's a wonderful approach. And I used to be a tax revenue for the state of Missouri. So if you've been to a convenience store, there's tobacco, there's fuel, there is, all the different, and then you might even be in the restaurant business type,
Yep.
see. And so your system then, you're saying, tracks the inventory of the resale items, not particularly the fuel or the cigarettes or the...
Not the fuel or lottery right now,
Yeah.
but it will.
Cigarettes, yes.
Okay.
Cigarettes, yes. Cigarettes and liquor particularly.
Well, I've audited hundreds of these companies, and yes, they swim in paperwork, so very good.
All right, guys, great job. And so can you help us? I know you had a slide explaining what we could do to help you, but can you help just kind of recap what it is we can do as a community to help you guys?
tag a C-store owner, introduce them to Connie, message us if we need to talk with a C-store owner. If you know somebody, introduce us, help us make connections. We shifted from an insurance industry into a convenience store industry. This is not exactly easy to go from 20 years of contacts into something with nothing. So anything that you can do to help us out, we're very, very willing to listen and talk with people. That's probably the number one thing.
Thank you. So both of today's presenters will hang around, so if you guys have additional feedback, questions, please mob them afterwards. Thank you guys for coming out. How many of you guys get the Tuesday email? So like half of you, 60% of you. We send out an email every Tuesday that tells you who Wednesday's presenters are going to be. So we have an Apple computer over here set up so you guys can get registered for that. It just takes a couple of minutes. It allows you to kind of make that last minute call if you're going to come or not. And really, we just want to thank you guys for coming out and supporting the entrepreneurs. The purpose of this is really to help local entrepreneurs. And we believe that the more people we can get in here, the more likely we are to connect them with somebody who can help. So help us spread the word. And maybe even a little more importantly, if you guys know of somebody who can benefit from this platform by being up here and telling the story of their company and letting us know what it is they need help with, send them to 1millioncups.com. They can fill out an application to present. We'll check it out as organizers and take it from there. So you guys have a great rest of the week. If you guys have any feedback for us as organizers on how we can make 1 Million Cups Springfield better for you, connect with us on Facebook. You guys will also, we have a YouTube channel, 1 Million Cups Springfield, where we have all of the previous presenters' videos uploaded, thanks to Chris Lynn in the back. So have an awesome day, guys. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week.